Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of parallel lines and transversals. Reminder, transversal is a line that cuts through two parallel lines. So you can have two little parallel lines going this way. And then the transversal would be any line that cuts through them. So we could have something like this, or we can have something going across. You guys get the point. Those would be your transversals. So, reminders of our angles. We have corresponding angles, same side, same position. Those are congruent. And congruent means they have the same measure. And a couple of these are congruent, or alternate interior, or alternate exterior, or vertical angles. All of those are congruent. A couple that aren't. Your consecutive interior angles. Reminder, these are also called same side. You have to know both names for this. Same type of angle, but they're just called different things. Those are supplementary, and that means they have a sum of 180 degrees. So linear pairs, those that form a straight line, those are supplementary. So again, sum of 180 degrees. Don't forget your little degree sign when talking about degrees, because if you do, I will mark that wrong. So let's not do that. Let's look at example 1. Example 1 says, given a measure of angle 1 is 65 degrees, find the measure of each missing angle, give your reasoning. So there's quite a couple of ways you can approach this. It has quite different answers, a lot of reasonings. They don't necessarily have to be just one. There's a couple of ways that you can go about these. And what I like to do is I kind of like going through my list. So my corresponding interior, exterior, or you can use your folder. We'll just go off and find its corresponding angles, its alternate interior angles, its exterior angles. Just kind of focus on angle 1. Go through that, make a little checklist, and then just kind of fill in what's left, my bad. So first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to label my angle. So it does say measure of angle 1. I'm going to draw that in, and that is 65 degrees. If we look at our list, it says corresponding angles. So I'm going to look for its corresponding angle. I know it has to be the exact same measure because if we see, they are congruent. So I know whatever its corresponding angle is, it's also going to measure 65 degrees. In case we forgot, corresponding angles, same side of the transversal in the same position. So if we picked up this parallel line, we'll lay that on top of this one, which angle would be overlapping angle 1? In this case, right here, angle 5, I know that's congruent. I know angle 5 is also 65 degrees. So we can go down here to D, the measure of angle 5, that is 65 degrees. And the reason is because it's corresponding to angle 1. Next up is alternate interior angles. I'm going to skip that one for now because if we look, angle 1 is actually not part of the 4 interior angles that we have here. So I'm going to skip that. And then I'm going to look for alternate exterior. Angle 1 is an exterior angle, so I know I'm working with these two down here. However, they have to be on opposite sides of the transversal. So the alternate exterior angle to number 1 is actually number 7. That's congruent. That's also 65 degrees. So you go down here to F, measure of angle 7. That's 65 degrees because it is alternate exterior to angle 1. So moving on with that, I'm going to look for consecutive interior angles. I know it's interior, so I'm not going to waste my time there. But then I'm going to look for my vertical angles. My vertical angles are the ones that make that X. So if I'm focused on angle 1 right now, then I'm going to look for its x. So remember, one parallel line, one transversal, that will form your x. In this case, the ones across from each other are going to be congruent. So actually angle 1 and angle 3 are going to be vertical angles. Angle 3 will also measure 65 degrees. So here in B, where it says measure of angle 3, that's also 65 degrees because it's a vertical angle to angle 1. Then I'm going to look for linear pairs, those that form a straight line. So if I'm looking at angle 1, the first straight line that I'm going to see is this one right here with angle 2. So if we look, angle 1 and angle 2, they're going to form that straight line here. But those are not congruent. They can be, but not all the time. And so what I'm going to see here is, well, I know that angle 1 plus angle 2 are supplementary. So I know both of those have to equal 180 degrees. So what am I going to do? I have a total of 180 degrees, but I know that angle 1 has already taken up 65 of those. So I'm going to say I'm going to subtract that from 180. You can go on your little calculators, on your little heads. And you are going to subtract 180 minus 65. So 180 minus 65, that should be around 115 degrees. So here angle 2 actually measures 115 degrees because it is a linear pair, aka it forms a straight line to angle 1. And then from there, there's a couple of ways you can go about these. Again, these you can have a million ways to solve them. But what I would do is I would start looking based off of angle 2. Like I already know what angle 2 measures. So I'm going to say, well, angle 2, here's an x. Isn't angle 4 vertical to angle 2? So here right away, without doing anything, I can say, well, this also measures 115 because it's vertical to angle 2. And I could kind of go throughout that same, that same checklist that we have here in the first page, but now based off of angle 2. So I could say, well, I'm going to look for its corresponding. For angle 2, that's angle 6 right here. So I know the measure of angle 6 is also 115. Oops, don't forget degree. So you could say corresponding to angle 2. I want you guys to find the measure of angle 8 using any one of those rules. Remember, there is no one correct right answer. There's quite a few. So find number 8, come in and check with me, and then we'll have a little discussion about the rest of the page. Let's flip over to the back and let's look at example 3. So example 3, we have the measure of angle 5. That's 82 degrees. We have to find the measure of each missing angle. We have one. We actually have all of these. So the one that I like to do first actually is these vertical angles because I like looking for these x's. So based on my x right here, I could say that, well, angle 8 has also 82 degrees. So in the measure of angle 8, it's also 82 degrees. We didn't have to do much for that. It's a vertical angle. It's congruent. You could pretty much go whatever way you felt like. So if we're talking about angle 5, I could also say, well, let's look for its corresponding angle. So if I'm focused on these two parallel lines, if I laid them on top of each other, what angle would be on top of angle 5? In this case, angle 6. So these are corresponding. You can say, well, angle 6 also measures 82 degrees. And using that same corresponding, if we laid this line on top of this other parallel line, angle 4 would also be corresponding to angle 5. So without any math, this is also 82 degrees. I could also say, well, let me find the linear pairs. So for, I don't know, this straight line right here, I could say, well, angle 5 plus angle 11 both have to add up to 180 degrees. And if I know that angle 5 already takes up 82 of those degrees, what's left over has to be what 11 is. So 180 minus 82, I think that ends up being around, I think 98 degrees. So over here we would say, well, these were linear pairs. You don't have to write the reasoning. I'm just showing you guys. For linear pairs, we said 98 degrees. And so now that you have, 98 degrees here, well, now we can work off based off of angle 11. So I'm going to say, well, the vertical angle here, angle 2, that has to be congruent. So the measure of angle 2 would be 98 degrees. We could say the corresponding angle to 2 is angle 1, so that also has to be 98 degrees. But now you have angle 1 is an exterior angle, which means you can use another exterior angle to find it. You can find its corresponding angle. You can use the linear pair of 1 and 7. There's just so many ways that you guys can do these. You are not going to go very wrong. So I want you guys to finish up the leftover ones. So C, F, H, I, and K. Then come in and check with me, and you will be finished for this video. So go ahead, find those, come get your tallies, and we will be done.